Hello and welcome to our program. Today we have with us Brinda Karat, a Politburo member of CPIM. Recently these incidents have been taking place around Delhi. If we look, the entire issue of beef ban, cow slaughter. Now 2 days back you visited Faridabad. What do you think, what are the reasons for this growing intolerance towards not only the minorities but also Dalits, Adivasis?
Well, I think the whole changed political situation with the advent of a pracharak, an RSS pracharak is the Prime Minister, and the direct hold of the RSS over government now, it is a qualitative change from the time of the Vajpayee government in two ways. One, they have a single majority in parliament, and two, the influence of the RSS is very much more predominant, which is not something which is, it's because the Prime Minister himself would like it that way. So these incidents that you are talking about is very much linked to the political context and the direct empowerment of the RSS and its organization. Mr. Modi has come with his own understanding of Gujarat and the Gujarat model. And we know that the Gujarat model that he is committed to and which he is trying to impose has been proved to be one, based on communal polarization after 2002, and secondly, it's a very pro-corporate set of policies. It's very much the trickle-down theory being implemented efficiently, except even the trickle-down to the poor is negligible. So I think to that extent there is a difference, because here you have a direct model, and also now, with neoliberal policies and the aggressive push of neoliberal policies, so both these things are there. But the social aspect, I think, this anti-minority and also the Hindutva agenda, the Brahminical approach, I think that is very evident now.
Yeah, but like if you look at the issue of beef ban only and the cow slaughter, the issue which they have been pushing, it also traces its history back from the entire agenda of RSS, which has been trying to put hegemony of upper caste Brahmins. And there's also an economic aspect attached to it. Can you throw some light on that?
You're absolutely right that, this is not an issue which has suddenly come up now. But you will see that the issue of cow slaughter has been an issue in which a wider section of the Hindu community, or those who believe in Hinduism, or those who are practicing Hindus, they do tend to get very moved by that. That is what has been shown. So there is a sort of a wider section that the RSS seeks to mobilize on a but the difference now, it's very clear, is that it's not so much as protection of the cow, but an anti-Muslim agenda. See, now, there are 2-3 things, if I may just very quickly.
Sure.
So one, if we just look at the legal aspect, so what they're trying to say now is what Khattar said, and what, in fact, which is very disturbing, even the Himachal Pradesh recent court judgment, in the second week of October, which said it's time to have a national cow slaughter ban. So this is a narrative which they're trying to put forward, that is because there's no legal framework that this is happening. Now, if you just look at the Constitution of India, Article 48, at that time, Article 48 was actually a compromise reached under the leadership of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar with the advocates of cow slaughter ban at the All India level, and they wanted that to be put as part of the fundamental rights chapter of the Constitution of India. And they had quite a support in the Constituent Assembly. At that time, Dr. Ambedkar and many of the other more sensible members of the Constituent Assembly said, we can have it in the directive principles, but we link it to scientific agricultural practices, and we link it to the protection of the cow as a milch animal for animal husbandry, and also as a drought, as to pull the plow. But it did give a special status to the cow over the buffalo and every other animal which may also give milk. So that was a compromise. But that compromise today was reflected in all the laws. So you have a ban on cow slaughter in almost every state except the northeastern states. So you have a ban already. The legal framework is already there. But what are they trying to do? At present, the legal framework reflecting Article 48 is limited to the productive life of cattle. As long as the cow gives milk, as long as the bull or the bullock can pull the plow. So after a particular age, they are called fit for slaughter. So this phrase, fit for slaughter, allows the slaughter or the killing or the culling, scientists called it culling, of useless animals. And this phrase, useless animals, is a phrase of the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court has said, in a very important judgment, that we cannot have a blanket ban. So it has to be a graded. So fit for slaughter. Now, today what they are trying to do when they talk about a ban, they are trying to reverse that compromise. They are trying to change Article 48. They are trying to bring in a religious basis instead of an agricultural based basis. And that reflects in the new laws which have been brought by Maharashtra under Fadnavis and Haryana under Khattar and the Rajasthan government to say no fit for slaughter anymore, there's a blanket ban. So this is how they are trying to reverse it. Along with that, and this is what is of great concern, they are linking it with consumption of beef. Now, nowhere in India has this ever been an issue. But now, legally I mean, so now they've introduced legal clauses in which beef consumption is banned, keeping beef is banned, and basically they're saying, you know, you can't eat beef in this country. Now that is absolutely and utterly absurd. It's like saying you can't wear jeans. I mean, you have a dress code, you have a diet code now. So this is what it's
basically
about.
The entire core idea
Yeah.
of breaching the fundamental rights of an individual of the country.
Exactly, exactly. That is exactly what it is. It is, and they're trying to impose their Hindutva agenda, and they're trying to tamper with the law. They're trying to tamper even with the directive principles, and we see the direct result in that horrific, barbaric attack where they went into a house on the basis of a rumor which they themselves had manufactured. It was not just a rumor in the air. They themselves manufactured the rumor.
And later it was proved it was not even beef, it was mutton.
I mean, for them, that was immaterial. They did what they had to do, which was to polarize the community in a village, which was an island of communal harmony, in which the women of the household told me that, you know, our men folk used to go out to work and we never for a minute felt insecure, although we're living in a completely Hindu-dominated area. So it was just a shocking, that was actually reflective and a terrible symbol of what these people can do. The way they destroyed that by a toxic campaign. And when that MP there, who's a minister in Modi government,
Sanjeev Balian.
not
No,
Sanjeev
Mahesh
Balian,
Sharma.
the other one, Mahesh
Mahesh
Sharma.
Sharma.
He said, ये तो accident है. अरे कैसे accident है? ये तो कोई accident थोड़ी है. This was a planned thing which the Minority Commission
Which
has
has
now
also
upheld.
But we have also been looking at various stray cows which are roaming around in the city and blocking roads, traffic jams. The RSS and the BJP doesn't seem to pay any attention towards them.
Absolutely correct. And you know, I was looking at the Cattle Census 2012 report. There are, according to that census, 53 lakh stray cows in India. Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, all the BJP ruled states have really high numbers. 53 lakh stray cows. Now, why are they stray? Because they are useless cattle for the peasant, for the farmer. The farmer, to look after that one animal per head, per day, we've calculated, it's about 100 rupees per day. Now, that is a whopping 20,000 crore rupees a year. Now, with that amount, who is going to give that? Who is going to force the farmer to look after that cattle which is of no use to him? Fodder is so expensive now, so they just let them go. And the RSS and the BJP, when they say we're going to put them in Goshalas, I mean, who are they kidding? Have you got the land to do it? Do you know how much land you're going to require? Your entire sub-plan for the tribal sub-plan,
You have cut down the budget drastically.
20,000 crores is more than the whole annual tribal sub-plan.
Also, if you look at the current regime, it's not only the minorities which are under threat. It has been continuously trying to push its agenda over the Dalits also, and they have also been trying to say trying to push anti-reservation agenda. Would you like to comment something on that?
Well, you know, Modi, after all, when the BJP grew in Gujarat, they used the anti-reservation movement in Gujarat to build their base in Gujarat. And of course, as is well known, starting from their Guruji, they have been consistently taking a position against reservation. Even at the time of the Mandal movement for social justice, the BJP and the RSS's position was very clear. They were totally opposed to it. So they are against it. And Mohan Bhagwat's statement that it needs quote unquote reconsideration is nothing but trying to bring back into the agenda, and at a time in neoliberal policies when jobs have become scarce, at a time when there's a ban on government jobs, at a time when young people, regardless of their caste, are desperately looking for jobs. Now, we know that reservation is not the magic wand to deal with unemployment. It is an instrument to help to deal with social inequality, but certainly it's not going to deal with unemployment. But this is an opportunity for them because jobs are scarce. Now, a young boy or young girl who's done well and who does not belong to the reserve categories would obviously have a sense of resentment as to why am I not getting a job? Now, this is a very genuine grievance. Now, how do you deal with that grievance? You have to deal with that grievance by providing a large number of jobs by changing your economic policies. At the same time, it also requires a very strong commitment to social justice, to deal with historical injustices and historical inequalities which continue in the present. It's not something that happened a century ago. Today, Dalits and a section of the OBCs are certainly still discriminated against. But we have supported the creamy layer among the OBCs because there's no doubt about it that a section of the OBCs have benefited from many of the policies, and therefore the creamy layer argument for OBCs does work and it is relevant. But that doesn't need reconsideration, that's already there. So what needs reconsideration? The only thing that needs reconsideration, according to Bhagwat, is SCST. So they want to tamper with the basic fundamentals of the Constitution as far as reservation is concerned. And this is a totally anti-Dalit agenda and is very much linked to their social approach also.
Yeah, also if we look at the current regime and the economic policies which they have been following, and if we look around us these days, the prices of pulses has gone up to 200 rupees. The government doesn't seem to be interested in that at all.
Exactly. I mean, somebody quite rightly said in Bihar, in the Bihar elections when I was camping, they said, "Bhai, ye to dal ki baat chhod rahe hain, go mass ki baat kar rahe hain." I mean, why are you talking about beef? This is not an issue here. Talk about dal and why your import-export policies have so utterly failed the people and so utterly benefited the big traders who have been hoarding. And now suddenly, after the entire hoarding has led to crores of rupees profits, the finance minister suddenly says, "Oh, look, we had raids and this is the thousands that we've got." It's ridiculous. So it is a diversion in that sense. You're right about that.
This would be my last question. Looking at the current scenario, where do you see this government heading towards, and what will be the approach of the left organizations, especially yours, which is working on the ground? What will be the approach? How will you tackle the current regime which is in power?
Well, I think the utter hypocrisy of the Prime Minister and his cabinet in not taking action against the repeated offenses committed by his ministers in his cabinet. That is the first issue. They are defending them. So that approach means that we can be pretty sure that the RSS has a free rein to subvert institutions, as we have seen what is happening with the writers today. So you're subverting institutions, you are not allowing, you're being intolerant totally towards any type of dissent. That's one aspect. You're filling these institutions with people who have the only qualification of being RSS friends or direct RSS appointees without any academic qualification. So this agenda, I think, is going to be very much part of the future. It may get worse. Along with that will be the corporate agenda. Now they're really getting jittery and they're just putting out ridiculous things. Suddenly you see a poster in Delhi. Now India has been certified by such and such agency as being the favored place of investment and so on, but there's no money coming in. The money is going out. Tatas, Birlas, Adanis, they're all investing outside. Nobody's investing. Forget foreign capital, your own big business is not investing. They're giving jobs to Americans, they're not giving jobs to Indians. So that's failing too. So they're going to be more aggressive about pro-corporate agendas. What more they can do, how many more laws for the workers and peasants they can dilute to bring FDI and big business, including domestic investment, higher. So these two pillars, I think. But, that also leads to resistance. I mean, look at the resistance we're seeing today. Dalit organizations are getting together, Adivasi organizations are getting together. We saw the most successful September 2 All India industrial strike by all the trade unions, and even though the BMS betrayed, going by what the RSS dictated, on the ground level, they couldn't stop their workers from joining the strike. So there's a momentum of resistance and struggle. And the Kisans and their unity, which forced Modi government to retract on its bogus amendments to the 2013 Act. So I think it's a combination of different social forces and class forces which the left is looking to mobilize, because our job is really cut out for us, because unless we strengthen ourselves, our own movements and left identity with a strong united move by all the left parties, I don't think we're going to be able to take the agenda, an alternative agenda forward. So we're looking at alternative agendas in different fields, and I think the resistance is on. It's still in the early stages, but I hope, and we're going to work towards intensification of that, and to give the people of India a credible alternative.
We would like to end here on this positive note that struggle is the way ahead.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for giving us your time.
Thank you, Pranjal.